There are many things I don't understand in life, the Bermuda Triangle, tax evasion, why we're even on this floating rock in the first place, but there are some things I do understand. And among those things is why a video game adaptation like the Super Mario's movie made $1.3 billion and why another adaptation just a year later made just $31 million. The difference is astronomical, and there are a lot of things to unpack there, including what part nostalgia plays in all of this. So guys, let's get unpacking. So we've seen our fair share of video game adaptations within the past couple years. We've got Sonic, Uncharted, Tomb Raider, Super Mario Bros. It's a lot. It's really a lot. And for the most part, these movies have all done well at the box office. Critical acclaim, not so much. But box office, they usually hit it big. So big that some even hit the $1 billion mark. I mean, really, it's no surprise actually. The video game industry is quite lucrative as it generates on average more than the movie and music industries combined. Yep, you heard that right. That is not a joke. That is actual straight up stats. So with such a revenue, you'd imagine they'd have a pretty penny to go around for their movies. Yes, gaming companies do in fact finance their movies, or at the very least sponsor it. A good example would be the Uncharted movie, with Sony Interactive Entertainment and PlayStation Productions covering the entire budget of the film. So considering that gaming companies often sponsor their adaptations, there is no shortage of cash in the picture. With an infinite budget, the possibilities are endless. They could hire the best directors, A-list actors, the best crew, the best artists for the soundtrack. Literally name it, anything money can get, these movies have it at their disposal. And as we all probably know by now, the harsh reality of this world is it's powered by grain. It literally runs on money. I'm sorry if you're pissed about it, that's just how it is. Couple this with the fact that there's already an existing fan base for these adaptations. Now you've got infinite cash, an existing fan base, the best people working hands on deck. There's really no way to screw it up, right? Well, that was what we thought until Borderlands came along. Borderlands was a straight up stinker. Like, it took the Rotten Tomatoes quite literally. It was so heavily criticized by critics, big YouTubers, and possibly everyone on social media as the worst movie of the year. And judging from the box office numbers, it's as though literally no one went to see this movie. It's actually kind of impressive how badly this movie did. And what makes it even worse is when you consider the fact that, just like the other video game adaptations, this movie had a huge production budget of over $120 million, and that's not even considering advertising, which could probably drive it up to $200 million. Obviously, money wasn't the problem here, and if we're talking about talent, the entire main cast are popular, well-known actors. The producers are top-ranking people in the industry who produced movies from Step Up to Venom. The director, Eli Roth, while he's not the biggest or best name in Hollywood, he does still have a portfolio with actors like Keanu Reeves starring in one of his movies. Basically anything money could afford, this movie could afford it. The budget was not the issue. It only highlighted the other problems with this movie, like the abominable visuals. For a movie with a budget of over $100 million, this movie sure looked cheap. In the words of one moviegoer on Reddit, it looked like it should be put on Netflix, which is really an interesting hot take on Netflix that just needs its own video. Anyway, the movie did have its moments of cinematic scenery and expansiveness with lustrous mountains and breathtaking plains. Nope, I'm just kidding, it didn't. I generally can't think of a scene where I went, this looks real, like this looks good. And to be honest, I don't think this is an issue exclusive to this movie at all. I remember Mortal Engines looking like it was just filmed entirely on a green screen. And that is really bad for a movie of that scale. When you have a video game adaptation like the Borderlands, fans have expectations, and one of those expectations is sick visuals, especially when it's a live action. Super Mario Bros. Was an animated movie, so already the producers had loads of wiggle room to explore crazy, outlandish places, like Snow Village, Donkey Kong Island, you get the gist. The choice of the producers of that movie to go with CGI animation instead of live action might have just been the movie's secret recipe to success. In a world where literally everything has to be live action nowadays, I think opting to go for animation was a brilliant move. And if you think I'm over exaggerating when I say literally everything is live action now, you have no idea. If anything, I'm under exaggerating, if that's even a real word. Let's see, we've got Mufasa, the Minecraft movie, which is live action. We'll see how well that turns out. Anyway, the producers of the movie decided to stick to animation, and it worked. It worked mainly because it stayed true to the source material, which is something Borderlands was not too keen on doing, but we'll get to that in a bit. Deciding to stick with the animation allowed it to appeal to both kids and adults. Kids because, well, what kid can ignore beautiful animation and vibrant colors? The movie was done by Illumination Studios, and they have produced some of the most beautiful and brilliant animated movies I've ever seen. And you can see the expertise in the movie, the attention to detail in the character designs, the action sequences, the landscapes, really everything if I'm being honest. And adults also love the animation because obviously apart from every other thing we've mentioned, the familiarity of the visual design. It's as simple as that. Obviously, not everything has to be animated. Live action is just as good if done properly, and this was not done properly. I mean, really think about it. Why do any of these things have to be live action? They could have easily made it the same type of animation that Arcane was done in. Now, don't get me wrong, it does make sense for it to be a live action movie. The characters in the game are human-like, but I'm really just trying to point out this obsession with Hollywood and trying to make everything live action. I mean, I don't understand it, but here we are. If you know the reason, just let me know in the comments. Anyway, I don't think this movie failed because it was live action. There are dozens of live action adaptations, video game live actions that have done really well commercially. However, this movie did a fatal mistake when adapting. By far the biggest criticism of this movie is that it was essentially made for no one. The fans of the video game didn't like it, general audiences, like myself, did not like it as well. And you've got to ask yourself as a producer, I'm talking to you Borderlands producers, what on earth could make you miss something this obvious and this vital to the success of any adaptation? Be faithful to the source material. That's what fans like about what you're adapting. If people didn't like it, you wouldn't be adapting it at all. Just stay true to what fans like about the material you're adapting. It baffles me how easily they could do this, but they just choose not to. Numerous people were genuinely anticipating the Borderlands movie. Yes, I know, as crazy as that may sound, it's true. And many of those people anticipating it were the fans of the original video games. Imagine their shock when they found out that this movie is taking on a completely different storyline from the video games. The founder of Gearbox, the company that made Borderlands, tweeted that apart from the tone, characters, and the setting, everything about the movie would be different from the game. There is no simpler way to ask this except why? Why did you decide that it was a good idea to take a story that your core audience loved and change the entire thing? As if that wasn't enough, they had to take the entire cast and change stuff like their age, some of them their personalities, their relationships. I don't understand the logic behind that. Have they learned nothing from Game of Thrones? Deviating from the source material usually doesn't always end well. And when you consider the fact that this is a game with a core audience devoted to it, it only makes sense to stay true to the source material, because you already have an existing fan base for it. This was what the producers of the Super Mario movie realized, and they used that to their utmost advantage. Now, while the movie did take its own liberties, for the most part it was what we'd come to expect of anything from the Super Mario world. They didn't do anything crazy like making Luigi a 50-year-old German man or making Mario a British hunk with a six-pack. You can easily see how if they did that, there would be a problem. Not to say the changes in the Borderlands movie were that ridiculous, but they kinda were. Randy Pitchford continued by saying that the two mediums are not the same, so they shouldn't be bounded by the same rules. Which is true in some cases, but 100% not in the case of this movie that doesn't even know the audience it's catering to. Like, they have no idea. The Super Mario movie incorporated everything fans loved about the game and somehow made it even better and more visually appealing. We've already talked about that before, but you can see how it all ties in together. Now, fans of Super Mario are eagerly waiting to see more about this world they've grown to love on the big screen, and newer audiences can't wait to see more about this beautiful animation. They successfully stayed true to the source material and managed to get a new audience while at it, which is mostly kids, let's be honest. But that's a good thing because kids fill theater seats just as well as adults do. It would have been a good thing if Borderlands had kids going to see the movie, but what parent would want their kid to see that movie? I am going to be real with you right now. If my 7-year-old cousin saw that movie, even he would think it's boring and dumb. And I know cause it happened. You see, it's not serious or remotely intelligent enough to be an adult movie, and it's not fun or visually appealing enough to be a kid's movie. So what on earth is it? This movie didn't appeal to new audiences, didn't appeal to its core audience, didn't appeal to kids, and most adults really couldn't care less about it. Yeah, awesome. Speaking of audience appeal, if there's anything an audience loves more than sticking to the source material, it's when you evoke nostalgia in them. And the only thing that Borderlands manages to evoke is multiple cringes, apart from the fact that some of the main characters are completely different from the game. There's also the issue that the story itself feels out of place, rushed, and genuinely boring. And dumb. It's also pretty dumb. Add all that and you really can't bank on the only thing you've got going for you at this point, which is nostalgia. Super Mario Bros. Delivered on the nostalgia front and got people gleaming at the screen in their theaters, and their dedication to the source material just made it all the more satisfying. Nostalgia is like a game changer for businesses, brands, apparently movies. All of these bodies use nostalgia to their advantage all the time, and it rarely ever fails. Coca-Cola used it in their Share a Coke ad campaign in 2011. Pepsi did the same thing in 2009, and if we're sticking on topic and talking about movies, the list literally goes on. Just last year, the only movie that trumped the Super Mario Bros. Movie, Barbie, used nostalgia as its marketing weapon. Also Ghostbusters, Star Wars, Toy Story, the list goes on. How this movie failed to see the pattern and just use it to their advantage is still shocking me. And to be fair, I'm sure the producers did see the pattern and utilized nostalgia as part of their marketing, but they destroyed any hopes of that working by just making literally every other choice bad. I guess the undeniable marketing power of nostalgia can't save an okay movie, but for a bad movie, it's pretty much useless. We live in an age that if I told you my pet hamster died and I was going through an existential crisis because of that and was about to commit suicide, you'd probably believe me even though you had no way to prove that was a blatant, unruly lie. You'd probably not even know that I've never even seen a hamster in my life, but you see, because I presented that information in a way that was believable, suddenly you're sorry for me, and you just want to buy me another hamster. That's how the internet operates. Every day, millions of people are being influenced by the opinions of other people online and really don't form opinions for themselves. To be clear, I'm not judging. I'm as guilty, if not even more guilty, of this as you are. However, it doesn't mean it's not the truth. Most of what we think is our opinion isn't really our opinion, and because we live in a world like that, it's easy to see why movies like Borderlands would only gross about $31 million. The movie is truthfully horrible. I'm not even going to pretend like that's not the case. But when YouTubers with colossal platforms like Penguin Z0 are talking about how excruciatingly horrible your film is, it's not going to get a lot of ticket sales. Sorry. They call these guys influencers for a reason. It's because they influence the actions of people. Is that a bad thing in this context? No. People deserve to know about the quality of what they are to potentially spend their money on and watch with their family on a weekend. I'd be pained if I had to spend $5 in movie tickets only to cry at the end of it. And not because I'm emotional. That's the reality. People aren't willing to spend their limited time and money on a movie that everyone thinks is bad. And that's why no one went to see Borderlands. Somehow I think the producers forgot about that simple caveat and just thought that maybe they were the MCU and everyone would go to see whatever they had to offer. Yeah, even Marvel knows better now. Anyway, what did you think of the Borderlands movie? Did you go to see the horror yourself, or you weren't brave enough and took everyone's word for it? Let me know in the comments. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that thumbs up. It helps the channel grow exponentially, and don't forget to subscribe as well. Till next time. Bye.